Hey everybody, welcome back to Creating Scenery for Microsoft Flight Simulator. This is part 8 of creating an airport using the SDK menu system. Obviously, however, a lot of the creation of the project is, in terms of setting it up with the menus, is pretty much over. Unless we go in later on and add a new asset group or something like that. Today we're going to be, we're at the 5 Alpha 1 airport. Yours might be different, obviously, that you're working on. And if you noticed, since the last video, I've done quite a bit of work because I am trying to get this airport completed so I can get it uploaded to flightsim.to. So I've added a lot of buildings, did a lot of modeling the past couple weeks to get all of this done. But like I said, today we're going to kind of concentrate on ground markings, and I have made many videos on adding ground markings and stuff, so I do recommend that you go back and see some of those videos. One is how to utilize the default line set, make some custom changes to it, and then add it into your material library so you can override the default ground markings. Okay, and you're going to see a little bit of that today. Plus, couple videos back, I showed you how to create a custom material. So I recommend that you go back and watch that video because we're going to be looking at custom, using a couple custom materials. Nothing too complicated, but I'm going to show you how to utilize those. Okay, so let's get to work. First of all, most of you are probably working with some kind of prototype of an airport to work with. And I think for the majority of people around the world anyway, you're probably using Google Earth. This is Google Earth. However, I can tell you right now, this imagery is old for this particular part of the world, okay, because they've done some roofing on some of these buildings in the past few years. This runway has kind of been improved a little bit over the years. Some pavement types are different, that kind of stuff. I think most of you understand that. So this is the Google Earth version of 5 Alpha 1. And then I'm going to show you what I do is I go right to the source for my aerial photography. It's usually up to date within a 2-year period, sometimes every year. But here in the United States, most counties, which is the, other than cities, it's the smallest, one of the smallest political units. Actually, there's even smaller units, but there are what we call townships, which is in this particular county, we're made up of 30 townships, and each one of those is a political entity in itself. Then you have all the towns, okay? But all of that, all of those townships and things fall under the governance of what we call counties. So if you're not in the United States and you don't understand what a county is, that's what a county is. And then a state is made up of a whole collection of counties. Okay, so there's your geography lesson for the day. Actually, that's what I have a master's degree in, is physical geography. Anyway, I digress, like I always do. All right, so this is Google Earth of 5 Alpha 1. But like I said, I always go to the source. So my aerial photography is the most up-to-date. In this particular case, I go to the county itself, and the county itself has, most counties in the United States have their own geographic information system their mapping. And this happens to be in Ohio. The mapping of a county is under the jurisdiction of the county assessor or auditor, as they call them here in Ohio. Okay, but if you notice the aerial photo, it is a tad different. Now, here in county, they're a small county, so their GIS site is not the best. I mean, I'm not going to say it's bad. It's just that they the pan and zoom for their online app could be a lot better. And this is what I used to do for a living, was I created these websites throughout the United States for governmental entities. But if you notice, okay, so I kind of zoomed out here just so I can kind of scoot into this area here. And you notice that this hangar has been re-roofed. It has a nice black rubber membrane roof now. This hangar right here, this maintenance hangar, it has an asphalt membrane roof on it. So they've changed some roof. If you notice that this right here, if we go to Google Earth, this used to be an old pond, but most likely it was probably more of an environmental eyesore and collection of mosquitoes and stuff. So they have since gotten rid of it. Okay, they've plowed it under and they're doing some other things. Probably also there's a farmland that surrounds the airport, and they either lease that out to local farmers to farm it, and so the farmer said, hey, we can get rid of that so we can put some crops on it. So anyway, that's probably the case in this particular airport. Like I said, 5 Alpha 1 is just a small local airport. But I'm looking at the ground textures, and I'm not really, if you look at the grass, this patchy stuff, there are other ways that you can do this. There's a lot of videos out there, Flying Festin and some others show you how to bring in aerial photos and overwrite the default. Okay, I'm going to leave that to them because they make good videos for that. So if you want to see how you can bring in a Google image and replace the imagery that's on your scenery, I recommend Flying Festin, Benny Boy 444, and there's a whole bunch of others. I think Patriot 6, I think Steven does it too. I recommend you looking at those guys' videos for replacing imagery. All right. I try to stay to the basics, and I don't want to step on other people's toes as much as possible. But if I feel that their videos can help you out a lot, I won't try to redo their videos. All right. It's just kind of a respect that I have for those other guys. All right. Now, anyway, so we're not going to really concern ourselves with like grass texture or that kind of stuff. I'm just showing you the basics of laying down textures and things like that and ground markings. All right. But when I look at a photo, I'm not looking at the perfect actual texture itself. I'm looking for changes in texture. Okay, so over here we have a large asphalt base, and then right here we have a newer pad that was probably put in. And I was out there the other day, and this is actually concrete. This pad right here is concrete. All right, so they've done some work here. This is sorry about that, and that's the one bad thing about this site, is the navigation of it. All right, so I'm looking at general patterns in the ground. All right, so I know that this part over here is striped asphalt. This right here is actually concrete. Like I said, I was out there last week. This is a concrete pad for the fuel. Concrete pad for the fuel. This is actually, they just laid some new gravel right here for their little parking area. This is asphalt. and this is all asphalt here. Okay, so they an older gray, okay, older gray asphalt. They actually resurfaced this not too long with black asphalt. Okay, so you got look at your aerial photos and see the different textures or changes in textures. All right, so we're going to be kind of concentrating on this area for right now. All right, so let's go look in the sim and see what we have. All right, so here's my 5 alpha 1. And if you notice that I have already put in a couple different textures here. All right, so we can zoom in here and we have the striped asphalt and we have the concrete base that's right here. And that concrete base comes down to the runway. They resurfaced the runway a little bit. Actually, that's not a runway, that's taxiway. All right, and then we have the concrete pad here, and we have concrete pad here. 2 different types of concrete for some contrast. I've put in the asphalt for the road. I am not happy with this gravel, so I will change that, and I'm probably going to make a custom material for that. And if you remember how I made that custom material using Krita, I recommend, that's just a few videos back on the differences of creating a PBR for Blender, and also making a PBR for a sim material. All right, so and you got to be careful because they're different. Okay, how you create them based on the RGB and alpha. All right, so I did make a video on how to do one of these custom materials. All right, so let's get going. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to come down to this end, okay, and we're going to look at our aerial photo. I'm going to go ahead and use the assessor site just so you can see, okay, and I'm going to pan this over. And we're just going to kind of zoom in like this. So we're looking at the striped asphalt, and then a change in, and I know that this right here kind of looks like this in this aerial photo, but like I said, I was there, and this is concrete. This is asphalt. All right, it's just a different shade. So if I go into here in the sim and I select this particular apron that I've created, we'll open up the properties and see we're using asphalt pattern 2 was the one that I put on there to begin with. All right, so what I want to do is I'm going to open up the material editor and I'm going to turn bitmap preview on so we can hover over and see what they look like. And then we're going to go into we're going to choose Asobo asphalt. I'm going to just basically use default materials for now. I got a couple customs that we'll talk about later. And then I'm going to move this property window down here. All right, and then I'm just going to find something that gives me a little bit of contrast between these two. Something a little lighter, so I'm just going to hover down until I can find a lighter pattern. So that's pattern 1, and I'm using 2 right now. So I'm just going to drag this over, and I got my left mouse button, and I'm going to release it on the surface there. So that gives me my apologies, sorry. That gives me the contrast that I'm kind of looking at in this particular area. Okay, now you notice my little polygon here, and it's not a polygon, that's actually an apron, and I'm going to show you how to do those here in a second. But I've created some of these ahead of the time, so we didn't spend too much time. All right, but that gives me a good contrast between these two types of asphalt. All right, so I'm going to call that good, but just so you know, remember, okay, see how the stripes are going this way? If you want to change that, it's in the properties, and basically down here where it says texture rotation, that is a slider. So if you slide that, you see the angle of the texture that's changing. All right. So that's how you can change the orientation of the pattern that shows up. Now, most likely, this was striped this way, consistent with the taxiway, and then they made some curves around here. That is the one bad thing that you can't do, is you can't make your stripes curve around a corner like this without making a custom material. All right. So you just have to do the best that you can. All right. So let's zoom out and let's do some line work. All right. We know that we have a hold. So let's take a look at our photo. And let me bring that up. All right. So here we have a runway hold short, and there are no signs at this airport. All right. But we have a center line on this particular part, and then we have two center lines that come out to the runway, and then we have this hold short. So we're going to add the line and the hold short. All right. And how you do that is pretty darn easy. Let's go to objects, and let's change from scenery to painted line. Now the default is a simple yellow line. All right. It's a simple yellow line with no black background like they are in the real world. All right. For contrast. All right. So what I'm going to do is in my material library, let's come over here to material library, choose our 5 alpha 1 library, and notice I have taxiways. This is a custom. I did a video on how to create this. It's under the playlist of custom materials. Okay, shows you, it teaches you how the sim reads this file, so you can make changes to it to make it better. All right. And so what I've done was, this is just a simple texture that I've created with black background. Let me find that and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have a material library textures folder, and inside there, these are all these custom ground textures that I've created. Now, some of them I didn't like, so I deleted them from the sim library, but they're still in the folder. All right. But if you notice this file right here, which is just a PNG, let's open this in Krita. And so let me bring Krita in, and notice, all right, this is basically this is the default line markings, taxiway markings, with the one exception is in the background I put this black. All right, so we have the yellow lines on the black. And then the program, when you're adding a custom line using the painted lines, it reads this default file, and based on the type of line, says what part of this image is being used to draw that line. All right. Now, there are some lines. Let me see if I can find the default version. Okay, this is the file. This is the default file for taxiway lines or painted lines. All right. This is what comes with the sim. And if you notice, we got the double line here, we got the double dash line here, we got another double dash line here, we have ILS hold short right here. For a runway hold short, it uses this part, this part, this part, and this part. For the default line, just the single line, it just uses this line right here. Okay, so based on what you choose for your ground marking, your painted line determines how much of this image is being used for that line. All right, so for the default line, it just uses this yellow line. For a runway hold short line, it uses this line, this line, this line, and this line. So it uses this much of the image. Okay, and here's your ILS hold. And here's your enhanced center line. And then if you notice, little ghost image, these are white. Okay, here is a service dashed edge line or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but we have a series of white lines that are being used. Okay, so what I did with this, whoops, wrong image. What I did with this image is I used that previous image, and then I made my own lines, line sets. All right, if you notice right here, we have a yellow line with black on either side. This is the one that I'm using for my center lines of my runways, of my taxiways. Okay, now if we go back to the default, you notice that that area of that image falls right here. So I had to use this area to create that. So anytime that I add a center line and I want to use my custom center line, I have to use this style of lining to set it out. Okay, I hope you'll see that here in a second. So I use this portion of the image to make my center line. All right, so I have black on each side. Now with a lot of the other places, all I had to do was add a layer underneath the yellow and add black to it to give it the black background. All right, but really this one right here was the only one that I had to use a different line, different area of the image in order to make my custom line. All right, so knowing that, I know that is probably really confusing. And then I added it into the material library, and then the textures directory of my material library. And then I used the sim. I went File, New, and then I created the name, selected my new image, put it in this box, and saved it. And then that added it to the actual material library of the project. All right, so if you notice right here, we have a runway hold short. And so I'm going to use painted lines to create this line going across. So we're going to go over here and make sure you have painted line. And we are going to choose, and I got to remember which one it was. All right. It might be edge service dash. So I'm going to select edge service dash, and I'm going to add. And I'm going to hold down the left control and click my left mouse button. And I'm going to click from here to here. Yeah, that's the one I want. I hit enter. Okay, if I zoom in, you're seeing that edge line, right? Okay, now I'm going to come over here to properties, open up my material library, and I'm going to use my custom line. And if you notice, the one right after the enhanced taxiway is my custom center line, and it's using the edge service dash line. All right, so if I simply select the taxiway and I left drag and drop into the optional materials, did that not work? That didn't work. That didn't work. I did something wrong. Hold on. I'm such an idiot. It worked. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. I just chose the wrong one. So with this line selector, I'm going to delete that. Okay? No, I'm not going to delete it. I'm going to come over here and we're going to go hold short forward. I don't know. Nope, it's hold short backwards. So type hold short backwards and it gives our image there. And now I'm going to drag and drop my taxiways on there, and it puts that black background on there. All right, then you can go in and you can adjust this as much as you want. Okay, now some of this isn't really all that great, but for this tutorial purpose it will be just fine. Now it looks fuzzy here, and it really isn't fuzzy. Sometimes in the sim, when you draw a painted line or something, it's going to look fuzzy. But once it goes into the sim, there, see how it cleared out? See, it's no longer fuzzy, but if I turn it like this, all right, sometimes it takes the editor a while to catch up, all right, so it doesn't look as fuzzy there, all right. Now, another way to do this is by using a projected mesh instead of, you make a projected mesh that looks just like this, and then you can take care of these little edges kind of stuff. See how that goes off of the asphalt into the grass? All right. You can play with different ways. All right. So anyway, that is using, so I just added this hold short line, and I replaced the default, which has no black behind it, with my hold short that has black behind it. All right, now let's do a center line. So what I'm going to do is come back, and center line is actually using that edge service dash. So I'm going to add a edge service dash, which is what I was trying to do to begin with, right? And then we're going to follow this. So I got right here, hit my left control and my left mouse button, and I'm going to follow this curve as good as I can. I'm going to add one more there, and we got a straight line here, and then I'm going to scoot on down to here, and I'm going to come down to where these split, and I'm going to hit enter. Okay, notice that it gives me the edge service line dash. All right, and based on that image where I put my custom center line, I have to use this particular line in order for my custom one to work. So I'm going to go back to my material library, select taxiways, and drag that into the optional materials. And notice I have a yellow line with black on either side. Okay, so I replaced the default with my custom line. And like I said, if you want to know how to make those custom lines, I have a whole playlist, nothing about making custom materials. All right, and stuff like that, ground markings. All right, so we have that one. Okay, so let's come down to here. Now there is no center line on this one. And we're going to come down to this one, and we're going to do the same thing because we have the exact same thing right here. All right, so I'm going to come over to my objects, painted lines, and I'm going to choose the hold short backwards. All right, and I'm going to come over here and add, and I'm going to hold down the left mouse button right here. Left control and left mouse click, and click, and then hit enter to finish that line. And then I'm going to go to my materials, and I'm going to select the taxiways and drop that right into there, and see how that looks fuzzy. But like I said, that fuzziness is only in the editor, and then usually it will clear up when you change your angle of view or something like that. Okay, sometimes it won't, but sometimes it does. Okay, it's a little better there. All right, but when you bring it into the sim after you build it, it will look just fine. All right, so we have a hold short here, and now we're going to add one more little center line right here. So I'm going to go back to my object painted lines. We're going to choose the edge line service dash, because remember, when I substitute the default, it's going to use my custom, and that's where I put my custom in that image. And so we're just going to add, and this is just simply 2 clicks, left mouse button right here, down to about right here. Okay, hit enter to finish that line, open up properties, and then go to my material library, and then drag my custom line into there, and that makes my custom line. I hope. It looks like crap right now. Okay, but I think it will work. I know it will work because I've done thousands of these lines, okay? But once I build it, I feel confident when it goes into the sim, it will look just fine, all right? Now let's take a look at our prototype, which is at the appraiser's office. Okay, this line comes and none does go into the runway here. And so we're going to drag this over and see if this one does too. This one, they don't have the line on there, but it is there now, okay? But it does not curve into the runway, all right? So we can come down to this end, and we can come into here, and we can go to painted lines again. And we're going to have a center line, which is our edge service dashed in our custom one. We're going to add, and we're going to hold down that left mouse button, left control and left mouse button, and we're going to curve that into the runway, and that's going to come right about there. And then we're going to replace that with our custom center line, which is in our material library. Drag and drop that there, okay? And like I said, it looks like crap sometimes, but there you go. It cleared it up when I changed the angle, and that will look just fine in the sim. All right, now there is not one that goes to the left, okay? I do know that. There's only one line, okay? I would say in Ohio, the reason that they did this is because on this particular airport, which is runway 28, which is always points in the prevailing winds, is we very seldom get an easterly wind. When a northeaster goes through, sometime, you know, we'll get the east wind every so often, but this probably only happens maybe a half a dozen times a year. Okay, so that's probably why they didn't paint that line, because they're sending people down to this end of the runway anyway. Okay, at least that's my theory. All right, now for doing other custom grounds, when I'm doing airports, I use aprons a lot. Okay, all of these polygons right here and here. Okay, these are not, if we go to objects, no, if we come over here, you notice that they're all aprons. Okay, I don't use polygons all that much, except for maybe doing a little bit of grass work, exclusions, vegetation exclusions, that kind of stuff. All right, most of the time I use aprons, because aprons will definitely, boom, get rid of the vegetation. Okay, but with a polygon, even when you say change the characteristics of the polygon to remove vegetation, sometimes it doesn't. There's sometimes some blades of grass that are still sticking up, but if I use an apron, it totally gets rid of the vegetation. Okay, now if you have an old airfield that actually does have grass coming up through the cracks in the asphalt or concrete, use a polygon. Okay, if you want that grass to come up. All right, so I know a lot of what this video is not really new stuff. I've done a lot of videos on ground markings and stuff like this. This is not really a menu-based thing, all right? This is general scenery, basic scenery creation, all right? Now, over here, I want to show you, remember, they plowed all of this. This pond is not there anymore. All right, now in the sim, they do have pond right here. All right, so what we're going to do is we are going to overwrite that, and I'm going to come over here. We are going to do an apron, and I'm going to do a default apron, and we are going to take this area and make this look like dirt, okay? Because that's what it did. That's what it looks like in real world. All right, so we're going to with default, I'm going to use my left control and my left mouse button, and I'm going to simply make this around here. Now this is just the basic. I'm just keep hitting my, I'm going to bring that all the way out here for now, okay? Just making a basic shape here. All right, now I did see part of this road go there, so I'm going to go ahead and do this, and then we're just going to kind of do this. All right, and then we're going to hit enter. Now, since that's an apron, that water is no longer showing. All right, but it's not asphalt or concrete, right? So I'm going to go to properties. I'm going to come to my material editor. My material editor, and I'm going to choose the all, and we're going to choose Asobo ground. Bitmap is on, and then we're just going to kind of come through here to find something that looks like dirt. See, I mean, you get some materials that might work, okay, for the most part. Especially if you're doing free scenery and stuff like that, Asobo stuff is good enough to use. But if you really want to get into making custom ground textures, I have a video that shows you how to do that. Alright, so I'm just going to come down here and see if I can find something that looks like dirt. That's rocky ground. There's sandstone. There should be a soil around here. There's a soil, so I'm going to left mouse drag and drop that in there. Okay, so that is going to give us our dirt on that where they got rid of that pond. All right, then I could put some other polygons to give it some visual contrast, you know, different kind of ground texture. All right. All right, so that is probably, I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to redo this gravel. I'm actually going to make a PBR for that, and replace this with that new PBR. All right, now what I want to show you is using the custom material. Oh, we got a little bit of clouds out. Yeah, this is real world weather here. All right, so this airport is I have two sceneries. This is Summit Motor Sports Park. It's a drag strip for the International Hot Rod Association. All right, I actually have this as a separate package, and I'm not using that one anymore. It's still going to be available on flightsim.to, but I am redoing it because this was the very first scenery I ever made for Flight Sim 2020. Okay, and it looked, when you go back and look at your early stuff, you'll, like Federico Pinati and I were talking the other day, it's, why did I think that looked good when I first created it? That was how he put it, and I was going, that's exactly what I mean. But I am reconstructing this, and I'm adding it into 5 Alpha 1 since it's right there on, right at the edge of the airport property anyway. Okay, so I am redoing the raceway, and I'm going to do this trucking terminal here as well. Okay, but I've been adding, I'll show you what this used to look like. Okay, so I'm going to open up my Blender, and here is the original file that I used to create this scenery. Okay, many moons ago. All right, this is the original file that I used, and it's all one file. All right, and so what I've done is I've took elements out of this scenery, and like the grandstands now, that is one object. All right, these buildings over here are one object. This pump fuel gas pump, that's one object. The admin building, the sign, this little anyway, other than the main grandstands, okay, the red, this, and this over here, that's one object. Everything else is its own object. All right, anything blue here, this is the original start that I did, okay, and that's a dragster I'm working on right now, okay, but this is the original start line that I had in my very first scenery. All right, if we go back into the sim, I have made some enhancements to it, added some PBR textures, okay, because this is really painted blue concrete. This is painted white concrete. And then I put on some of these barriers. These barriers are not blue, they're white concrete, all right, and they have some signs on them. So I'm redoing this area. I'm redoing the whole thing, all right. So this is all going to be the part of 5 Alpha 1 when I'm done. Now, see this blue patch right here? Okay, that is just paint that is on the raceway. And this is a very, very simple texture that I put into the Model Lab Textures folder. It's just a 4K blue square, okay? And I'm using that as a custom texture. So right along here, okay, so right about here, there's another one of these blue stripes. So I'm going to go close out that. I'm going to go to Objects, and I'm going to add in, I think I made that an apron. Yeah, that's an apron. All right, so I'm going to choose an apron. I'm going to go Default. I'm going to go Add. And I am going to left control, click. We're going to come out a couple feet. And then we're going to slide all the way to the end, even with this part here. Click, and then click here, and then I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to put the default taxiway concrete in there. All right, but I don't want that. I want my custom material. So I'm going to come over here to Material Editor, and I'm going to choose on my airport's texture library, and notice I have one called blue, and that's all it is. It's just blue because it's blue paint. I'm going to select the blue paint, and I'm going to drag that over to the surface, and then I'm going to increase the priority so it shows up on top of this apron. All right, so I up the priority on it. So that looks like this, right? Okay. Now, since this scenery is part of the airport project, I can use aprons to do better texturing than you can with polygons. All right. So that is another reason why I added Summit Motorsports Raceway into my 5 Alpha 1 project in itself. All right, now the other thing is, let's zoom in here, and this is going to be trial and error. Let's go back to scenery. Let's go back to painted lines. All right, and we are going to use, we're going to paint a line. And I think I got to remember which default line is a narrow white line. I think it is edge line solid. I'm not sure. That might be double. That might be 2 lines. One of these is a single line. Service dash. No. I don't want to use the white wide line because that's really wide. All right, it's like 3 feet wide. Okay, I just got to remember which one it is. Well, let's do this first. Let's select edge line solid, and let's add. I don't know if this is the right one or not. Let me just make a test one. Let me just go from here to here. Okay, that is double yellow. Okay, so I'm going to hit enter and hit delete. We don't want that. Oh, that's edge line, not service. I want a service solid. There's service, edge service. We're going to add left control, click, and that's the one I want. I want a white line. Okay, so I'm going to hit enter and I'm going to hit delete, and we're just going to re-add it using edge service solid. Okay, and there is a white line that goes around this blue. So I'm going to add, I'm going to click here, I'm going to click here. Now it's, we're going to kind of come up to this part right here, left control, click there, and end it here. And then I'm going to hit enter. And that puts that white boundary around that polygon. Okay, but I need you to notice, see how this curves? All right, well, you come up to properties. Whoops, I need to select my line here. Whoops, I didn't want to do that either. View properties, there we go. All right, we need to select this line that we just added. Come on, you're around here somewhere. That is edge service. Now notice true angle, it says none. That's why it makes this a curve right there at that corner. I'm going to say all points are true, and then it squares it off for you. Okay, so that's how you get that definite change. All right, then I will add another one right here. So doing the same thing, control, left mouse button, click there, zoom in up here, control, hit enter, and now I'm going to have to go to the properties and make that say all points, and then we can move back, and now we have paint on our starting area in our drag strip. Okay, now I'm going to do some more painting on the ground. I'm going to add the paints on the other side for the starting thing. Okay, now the flag that you see blowing, that is not my flag. That is from the what is that, windy something. I think most of you know what that is. That's a sim object, and I believe that's TSR Windy Things, all right, which is available for free on flightsim.to. I did not create it, but there's a whole bunch of flags, and I added that in the scenery. So if you don't have that scenery when you download my airport, okay, if you don't have that TSR Windy Things in your community folder, then this flag won't be there. Okay. Also, Frederico shows you how to create sim objects, and I really recommend looking at his channel if you want to do some high-end animation kind of stuff. All right, but he shows you how to make a windsock and all that kind of stuff, so you can use those. All right, now I'm trying to think if there's anything really that we need to talk about other than this last step, which you guys should be doing when you're creating your airports. Okay, oh yeah, I added in the stadium lights. I actually redid the stadium lights. So let's go to options and let's go to nighttime. Okay, so now the stadium lights show up. Okay, and I got the globe shine, light bulbs shine a little better. Got better lighting, the angle of them, the placement of them. So that is lighting up our track area. All right, and then I have some custom stuff. I got the finished timers, and they illuminate at night, that kind of stuff. All right, so that is that. Go back to daytime there. Now, when you add all this kind of stuff, you simply are going to save your scenery. You'll see that green flash means that it's saved. If you have an error, such as part of your airports, and you have anything red in your, anything that shows up red in your list of objects, you cannot save. You have to fix that error before it allows you to save. So know that. All right, now, obviously, the next part is to rebuild the project. Now, let me talk a little bit about building. All right, 99.9% of the time, I'm coming up to my project, going into Inspector. If I have a different version, I'll change the version, and I'm going to do that here in this one just so you see what happens. And then I'll just build package. All right, and then it builds the package, and then I can go out and put that package in my community folder, or put it in a zip file and put it up on flightsim.to. All right, so that's the basic build. All right, now a lot of people will come up here and build all, which is fine. You can do it that way too. Okay, but there's also a build and extract. Okay. Now, the build and export, not extract. The build and export does a build just like over here, me hitting this build package, but it also puts it into a zip file. All right, and then if you have marketplace stuff where you sell your stuff, it will write it up to your account. All right, I don't sell my stuff. All my scenery is available for free. Okay, so I don't use this very often. I've used it maybe twice in my entire lifetime, so to speak, but I didn't send it up to Marketplace. It just created the zip file. Well, sometimes in my zip files that I upload to flightsim.to, I might include some screenshots and stuff like that people can look without being on flightsim.to. So I may package some other things in the zip file, maybe a user's manual, a parking map showing all the different parking spaces. If you put that stuff in your zip file, then you can append to a zip file if you wanted to, but I usually don't. I usually just build, and then I create the zipped file manually using 7-zip or something like that. All right, but that's what build and export does. So what we're going to do is we're going to build this for the day. So with the inspector open and the project up there, I'm going to make a change. I'm going to change this to version. This is actually going to be version 3. And we're going to make this 3.0. All right. And I'm just going to simply build. And since I changed the version number, it needs to access the file that it writes version 3.0 inside of it, and that's why it's asking. The package will be built using the data currently saved on disk. Do you want to save? Yes. Okay, and the only reason that dialog box came up is because I changed the version number. All right. Now, after it builds, it brings up the console, so you can check for any errors or any warnings. All right. Now there's a couple warnings: failed to find an asset group, and then this XML. All right. I can tell you right now that this is a warning that makes absolutely no sense, because everything did work. All right. Because if you look right up here, I get this error in every build I've ever done. That's always come up. All right. It's not an error. It's a warning. A warning will allow it to build, and you can use the product in your community folder. All right. If it's an error, if you get a fail right here, it will not create the package. So know the difference between a warning and an error. An error will not build the package. A warning will go ahead and build it. It's not that big of an issue, is basically what a warning is, all right? But sometimes you'll want to go in and you'll want to assess, why am I getting this warning? What's going on? Well, I've researched this error, and it's not only for this, it's every single project I've ever done, all right? And I don't know, I think it's just a bug in the export, I mean in the build process, but I'm not concerned with it. I'm looking for 0 failed right here, all right? So once this is done, you can close out the console, go to Project, Close, and then close out Editor, your project editor, and then escape out of the sim, all right? So escape, main menu, and then that should take me back to the main menu. There's been a couple times that it gets frozen right here. I just close the app and it's fine. And then we're going to quit to desktop. You didn't see that because I'm in the way. My picture is. All right. So we close the desktop and we're done. Okay. All right. So there will be another part of the video. Another part of the series. I haven't exactly decided what I'm going to be doing that on there, but if you guys notice that dragster in the list, that dragster on the in the original project, I guess it was the original Blender file, I'm in the process of animating that. All right, and I think I put up a quick 10-second video not too long about just testing the animation. All right. I did not like how it actually looked in the sim because it was really, really fast. It's only a couple seconds, it's like 3 seconds long, 4 seconds long. Well, since an animation will loop over and over in the sim, I want to make that really, really long. So you see the car driving up and coming up to the starting line, and then I want to animate the light tree with all the lights changing, and then the car goes down the track, and then a parachute comes out, and then it drives all the way down to the end of the lane and makes a turn, and then it disappears and then animates again, but it's a longer animation. So because like the way I had it before for testing, it would boom, go down the track, come back, boom, go down the track. I mean, it would just go back like just and it was about that fast. All right. So I'm going to be working on that animation of that car, and I'm probably going to put together a video for that. Actually, I will, but I want you to understand that I learn animation from other people. Okay, I don't do a lot of research into animation. I've done some animation videos that I did do my own research, but I don't really, to be honest with you, I don't have time to do all of that research all the time. Okay, so I rely on Federico Pinati's tutorials, other people that do some animation tutorials. I really rely on learning from them, okay? And I recommend you guys doing the same thing. If you guys want to do sim objects and complex animations, I really recommend watching Federico Pinati's YouTube channel. I rely on his knowledge, and I learned from him. So even though I've been doing this quite a while and I can do Blender pretty much in my sleep and all this kind of stuff, I'm still learning a lot of stuff just like you guys. And sometimes I have to go back and relearn because I might have wasted some time and haven't done it for a while, and I got to remember how it's done. So I'll go back and watch Federico's stuff as well. Also, join his Discord. If he has a link for his Discord, and I have a Discord as well. And Pt8, Stephen also has a Discord channel. So there's plenty of help. Okay, a lot of help. Okay, but I'm gonna make a video on the process of animating that dragster going down there. But I just want to give kudos to Mamu and Steven and all them kind of stuff, because I rely on their knowledge for that kind of stuff. All right, I'm just going to show you the video and how I did it. Okay, please, if you have not, subscribe. I'm in awe that I have over 2,000 subs now. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much. Hey, please, if you feel inclined, support this channel by, yes, subscribing, hit the notification bell and thumbs up and comment and all that kind of stuff. But if you would like to help financially, buymeacoffee.com/myphysicalworld. That $5 can go a long way for me to keep my system up and running, that kind of stuff, bringing content to you guys. I really appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. And I hope the stuff I showed you today is useful. You like the project that I'm working on. And I will see you guys next week on another video. We'll see you guys later. Bye.